Blake Lively, of course, will be testifying.
I just think this is going to completely backfire.
Blake Lively is preparing to speak out under oath.
Blake Lively just had a full-blown courtroom meltdown after the judge forced her to testify. And no, this isn't a movie. It's her real life spiraling. She's now making history as possibly the first woman dragged to her own trial looking like the victim and the villain at the same time.
So we would, of course, expect her to be a witness at her trial.
And let's be real. If she opens her mouth under oath, it's not a matter of if she slips. It's how fast the cell door slams shut.
She used her dragons to manipulate Justin at every turn.
Blake Lively is officially taking the stand. Not in a Netflix courtroom drama, not in a scripted miniseries. This is real life, under oath, and in 2026.
Blake Lively's lawyer has spoken out exclusively to People and has let everyone know that Blake Lively, of course, will be testifying.
And if you believe her lawyer, Michael Godley, it's happening with full confidence. Though the way he said it felt more like someone trying to convince a room full of skeptics that the ship isn't sinking.
Blake's lawyer, when asked if she would testify, said, "The ultimate moment for a plaintiff's story to be told is at trial."
His exact words to People magazine, "Of course she's going to testify," then again and again. He dropped "of course" so many times you'd think he was buffering. Because here's the thing, when your legal rep says something 3 times in a row, it usually means someone behind the scenes is sweating.
We expect that will be the case here with Lively, so we would, of course, expect her to be a witness at her trial. Of course she's going to testify.
This wasn't a quiet confirmation either. It came conveniently timed right after Blake gave a dramatic speech at the Time Gala. A speech where she talked about her mother surviving a murder attempt before Blake was even born. Emotional? Absolutely. Powerful? Sure. But subtle? Not even a little.
Andy, is this a good idea?
Oh no, oh no, oh no. Oh no. I mean, look, there's a lot that's happening that just feels like they're trying to look confident.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't believe we're gonna make it to trial.
It was the kind of revelation that just so happened to align with mounting pressure over whether she'd take the stand. And when people started connecting dots, it was obvious. This was less about family trauma and more about setting a tone. A tone that the public didn't buy for a second.
Good luck, Blake. Good luck. I just think this is going to completely backfire. But
Instead of support, Blake was hit with a wave of sarcasm and disbelief. The internet wasn't clapping, it was cackling. Comment sections filled up with people saying things like, "She's spiraling. This is PR, not bravery." And, "Of course she's testifying. She has no choice."
Lively's legal team insists that their case will also rely on, in quotes,
Even her longtime fans are stepping back, unsure whether they're watching a legal strategy or a slow-motion PR crash. This was supposed to be a powerful moment for her. Instead, it played out like a trailer for a documentary nobody asked for.
evidence. Where?
yeah, it's coming.
That's
Trust us,
my
bro.
biggest question, and that's the thing that I'm waiting on, right? Like, I've been dragged for it here and back, but I am trying to keep an open mind.
And the real issue, the so-called testimony still has no backbone, no hard facts, just more talk. Because for all the dramatic headlines and legal jargon, Blake Lively still hasn't dropped a single shred of actual evidence.
And we expect and hope that in Discovery we'll have the opportunity to really focus on what we believe to be the core part of the case, which is that this retaliation campaign was launched against Ms. Lively for her raising concerns about SH.
Not a screenshot, not an email, not a signed statement from anyone remotely connected to the set. Nothing from Sony, no producer affidavits, not even a vague memo with a date stamp. Her team's been promising receipts since this mess started. But the bag is still empty.
So in a statement to People, Baldoni's attorney Brian Friedman pushed back on the claims and accused Lively of attempting to deflect from the facts of the case. And he said, although obviously uncomfortable for the Lively parties, the truth is not a distraction. The truth has been clearly shown through unedited receipts, documents, and real-life footage. More to come, Friedman says.
And trust me, people are noticing. Social media has turned this into a full-blown roast. Maybe the evidence is on her kid's iPad, is a recurring joke now. One viral comment even said, "If the proof is as real as her acting range, we're in for a long trial." Ouch. But it's not just random trolls. Even legal analysts are questioning the credibility of her strategy. Because after all this noise, the only thing we've seen is spin.
Blake was the one who brought her high-profile friends into the situation without concern for their own personal or public backlash. As the truth shows, she used her dragons to manipulate Justin at every turn.
Let's not forget, this was initially supposed to be a sexual harassment case, right? That was the banner headline when everything broke. But somewhere along the way, her lawyers pivoted. Now it's all about retaliation. They're trying to reframe the case around how Blake was allegedly treated after raising concerns, not the original complaint itself. In plain English, the claim has shifted from "this happened to me" to "they were mean to me after I said something." That's not just a soft claim, it's legally fragile.
Baldoni's lawyer said, "Let's live stream your testimony in front of Madison Square Garden." And that's what he said.
And this isn't a theory. Her lawyer literally said the core of the case is about the retaliation campaign. Not the harassment, not the event, the aftermath. It's like filing a lawsuit over someone ignoring your email instead of the actual reason you sent it. And this opens the door to serious backlash.
But now we've got the real stories coming in. Blake Lively's lawyer speaks out in first interview, reveals actress will testify in Justin Baldoni trial.
Because if there's no concrete evidence of the harassment itself, then what exactly are we fighting over? An uncomfortable vibe? A bad set day? At best, that's a stretch. At worst, it's a reputation destroyer. Because the more people dig, the more it looks like the core of her case is built on vibes and headlines, not facts.
And people are saying, yeah, no, duh, no, suh. Of course she's going to testify. You know, that's like, you have to.
Even worse, this PR first, substance second approach is giving everyone flashbacks to past high-profile disasters. The public's patience is low, and the appetite for celebrity courtroom theatrics with zero proof is even lower. People are tired of courageous statements without follow-up. And Blake's team, instead of laying down the receipts, is playing the wait for trial card like it's a full house. Spoiler, it's not.
What do you got? So yes was the answer, Gottlieb said, the lawyer, when asked if Lively will testify.
At this point, the longer they hold back evidence, the louder the laughter gets. It's not just that people don't believe her, it's that they're convinced she doesn't even believe herself. If she did, we would have seen something by now. A redacted text, a blurred out document, anything. But week after week, it's the same routine. Emotional story, deflection, no receipts. And now that she's confirmed to testify, all eyes are locked on whether she can back up a single claim under oath.
And again, I don't even think they think this thing's going to trial, but I certainly do. We've talked to people that say, no way this goes to trial. But again, with every day that goes by, we are getting closer to that day.
Because once she's on that stand, the PR armor falls off. It's just her words, and cross-examination. And if the best she's bringing is dramatics and recycled statements from interviews, this meltdown won't be private. It'll be public, brutal, and career-altering. Whether she realizes it or not, the stage she's about to step on isn't made for stunts. It's made for truth. And truth, in this case, is still nowhere to be found.
You can tell he has a short fuse.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
You can tell by some of those statements he was going to try to make them read. I actually, maybe I do believe they don't. He's the last resort.
Ryan Reynolds isn't even in the courtroom yet, and somehow, he's already the weirdest part of the case. He's not just Blake's husband in this mess. He's a named defendant in Justin Baldoni's countersuit. And yet, according to Blake's team, there's a real chance he might not testify at all.
Based on his motion to dismiss, I don't think that would go very well. I don't think he would come across very well to a jury. He does have a very short fuse, as you said. Very sarcastic. I don't know how well this would go.
Not because he's been cleared, not because the judge tossed the claims, but because Blake's lawyer, Michael Godley, insists the accusations against Reynolds are frivolous. That's cute, because last we checked, calling something frivolous in public doesn't make it disappear in court. The motion to dismiss? Still sitting there. Still unresolved. Still very real.
And we continue to discover more intentional misconduct. So what else is there now?
It's been weeks since Godley filed the request to get Ryan removed from the case. But no ruling, no movement, no fast-track miracle. Which means, legally speaking, Reynolds is still very much in play. And that silence is starting to sound a lot louder now that new details are creeping in. Details that shift the narrative from worried husband to potential corporate liability.
Was Disney actually complicit in Ryan using shareholder revenues for a personal grudge? I would be surprised to learn that this type of corporate waste would not lead to much more exposure for those that have been complicit in affecting shareholder revenue.
Enter Disney, because apparently, this whole thing might not just be about personal drama. According to Baldoni's legal team, Reynolds allegedly used shareholder resources to fund a revenge campaign. Not hypothetically, not figuratively. We're talking Disney shareholder money being rerouted, if the claims are true, to bankroll a film that was less about art and more about character assassination.
Like, I didn't know that until all this came out. Like, I would have never known, unless you knew Justin. Like, I'll say this, we've talked to crew, and I've had multiple crew members go, like, oh, we totally knew that was Justin. When I watched Nice Pool in the movie, like, oh my God, they're totally making fun of Justin. Like, before all the drama and everything was coming out, like, they could tell. Like, people who knew Justin could tell that Ryan was absolutely making fun of them. So
let's get specific. The character in question is Gordon Reynolds from the film Blake and Ryan pushed into production. The name alone isn't subtle. But what's worse? Crew members, multiple, on record, told Popcorn Planet they recognized it as a parody of Justin Baldoni immediately.
But is that parody? That's where I'm worried. Like, I don't know. Like, he didn't come out and say Justin Baldoni is this and da-da-da. Like, he didn't. He called him Nice Pool and changed it around, called him Gordon Reynolds. Now, obviously, we've deduced to put it together he was the inspiration. There's no doubt.
Before the lawsuit, before the internet outrage, these weren't guesses made in hindsight. These were red flags waved on set. One crew member even described the portrayal as weirdly specific and unmistakably Baldoni. So if Ryan really did use Disney's money to make that happen, that's not petty. That's shareholder fraud disguised as creative direction.
All of Justin's complaints against Ryan and Blake for defamation and taking over the project and doing what they've done, they have caused damages to him.
And that's exactly where it gets dangerous. Because if Disney was even remotely aware, or worse, complicit, this doesn't just stay a courtroom problem. This becomes a PR catastrophe at a corporate level. Imagine Disney, a publicly traded company, facing questions from investors because one of their most profitable names allegedly funneled studio resources into a personal vendetta. That's not bad optics. That's SEC-level scrutiny. And right now, there are lawyers with their eyes on Disney's quarterly filings, trying to figure out if any of that production budget ended up being misused.
In fact, the Wayfair Foundation is shut down. Those are things that are showing damages, which I still have yet to see anything of Blake or Ryan that is showing damages or problems, right?
So while Blake's team is scrambling to block subpoenas and pretend Ryan's just a supportive spouse, the reality is he's teetering between ghost witness and financial liability. If he doesn't testify, it'll look like evasion. If he does, he might have to answer for more than just a few uncomfortable texts. He may have to explain exactly how a revenge character ended up with a budget and a studio slot.
She can't help herself. If she wanted to win this, she should have gone offline for the year. And she should have just disappeared. And if it was really that serious, and dealt with it and shown what she's lost.
Meanwhile, over on the other bench, Justin Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman, is playing this like a heavyweight fight. He's not hiding in press releases or dancing around courtroom language. He went straight for the jugular, publicly challenging Blake Lively to testify live in Madison Square Garden. Not a metaphor, not a figure of speech. He literally said, "Let's live stream it in MSG and donate the money to domestic violence survivors."
The fact that she's doing all these appearances is not helping her case at all.
That wasn't just a mic drop, that was a legally loaded dare, because it puts Blake's entire team in a chokehold. You say this trial is about justice? Prove it. You say you're not performing for sympathy points? Then do it in front of 20,000 people and millions more watching online. The move was brutal, but tactically perfect. It forced Blake's PR machine to either rise to the challenge or retreat under the excuse of preserving dignity. Guess which one they picked? So far, Blake's camp hasn't even acknowledged the offer seriously. No counters, no redirection, just silence. And that silence has made one thing very clear to the public. This is a game of legal chicken, and Friedman isn't the one flinching. His move painted Blake as performative. All talk, no action, all survivor rhetoric, no courtroom substance.
Baldoni's response, the lawyer at least, Baldoni lawyer to Blake Lively: let's live stream your testimony at Madison Square Garden. Yes, you are listening to that right. That's what Brian Friedman said. This is a game of chicken, and he is not blinking.
And he's not bluffing. Friedman has said, flat out, that he's holding receipts, unedited ones, documents, videos, screenshots, names, witnesses. He's already told outlets that they'll come out in court, not in a press release, which is a strategic move on its own, because while Blake's side is out here leaking sound bites to people and building up dramatic arcs through magazine interviews, Friedman's sitting on real material.
Blake Lively is really serious about testifying for the world to see. Let's live stream it in Madison Square Garden and give the money to the domestic violence survivors. Friedman's challenge comes in response to Blake's lawyers revealing she plans to testify.
He knows what he's doing. If he drops everything now, Blake's team spins it, muddies the waters, and buys time. But by waiting until court, he guarantees it lands with impact, unfiltered, unsanitized, and under oath. And that's what makes this so brutal. Because while Blake and Ryan are putting on a media tour and dodging depositions, Friedman's building a trap. Not for headlines, for court. For the moment when those frivolous accusations can no longer be waved away, and suddenly, the Disney Golden Boy and his queen of cover stories have to answer real questions in front of a real judge.
Will not be streamed for the public to see, unlike the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case.
And let's not pretend the public isn't watching all of this unfold, like it's the sequel to Depp versus Heard. Except this time, the stakes aren't just reputational, they're corporate and career-ending. And right now, it's clear who's holding the match.
So I guess we're just a trial person now. I got my gavel. Do they want me to rule on anything? I'll be on the objection, Your Honor.
Blake Lively says she doesn't want a celebrity circus. Her team insists this case shouldn't be turned into a red carpet sideshow. They've gone on record stating that they don't expect this case to turn into a circus of parading in every celebrity that might have ever had a conversation with Blake Lively or Ryan Reynolds. That's a direct quote from her own lawyer, Michael Godley, who said it with a straight face. But here's the problem. They already built the tent, invited the guests, and sold front row tickets. Because if anyone turned this into a celebrity circus, it's Blake. She didn't just let names slip, she dropped them like promo codes. Taylor Swift, Hugh Jackman, Gigi Hadid, these aren't random acquaintances. These are people she's been photographed with, interviewed about, and casually name-dropped across multiple platforms while hinting at the emotional weight of this case. And now? Her legal team is acting confused when Baldoni's side moves to subpoena the same people, as if their relevance is shocking, as if their fingerprints weren't already all over this mess.
I'm shocked it's gotten this far, Kim, to be honest, because, none of these celebrities are going to want to go through this at all.
I agree.
Let's talk about Taylor Swift for a second. Swift's involvement, according to industry insiders and leaked production chatter, included soundtrack selection for the movie in question. She didn't just attend a screening and say, "Good job." Her creative input was allegedly woven into the film's DNA.
And I think that is a question. Did he use this movie as a vehicle to basically create an unaliving fantasy of Justin Baldoni?
But now, when it's time for court, Blake's team is spinning this like Taylor had no clue what was going on. They're treating her like she wandered into a movie set with a latte and left with a Spotify playlist. Meanwhile, the internet knows better. Fans have receipts, archival footage, tweets, and they're using all of it to point out the blatant hypocrisy. Because here's what really grinds people's gears. Blake's team wants to subpoena 5 years' worth of Justin Baldoni's text messages. Not just emails, not just a few relevant exchanges. A full 5-year excavation of his private life. Every conversation, every text, every DM, wide open for scrutiny.
Yeah, Blake kind of brought her friends into this. And she did every time she name dropped them through interviews, when she name dropped them through text messages, like it's relevant. It's all over it.
And yet, when people suggest that maybe Taylor, Hugh, and Blake's other so-called dragons should answer a few questions under oath, suddenly, that's invasive. Suddenly, it's unnecessary. Suddenly, it's not what the case is about. The double standard couldn't be louder if it came with its own Spotify exclusive.
Sure, those "we can bury anybody" texts look damning. They do. So they're going to have to explain that. But that's not proof that they did it. And they still haven't found proof that they did it. That's the big problem, right?
Now the public's not stupid. They're watching this unfold like it's season 3 of a prestige courtroom drama. And right now, Blake's role as the misunderstood heroine is flopping hard. Online commentary has taken a sharp turn, and host Elsie from F Around and Find Out wasted no time pulling the pin.
Blake Lively is preparing to speak out under oath. In an exclusive interview with People, the actress's attorney, Mike Gottlieb, confirms that Lively, 37, is expected to take the stand in the upcoming trial involving It Ends With Us co-star and director Justin Baldoni.
She's posted multiple videos dissecting Blake's tone, speech patterns, and her bizarre PR maneuvers. One clip of Elsie mocking Blake's courtroom lingo, "Two things can be true at once," went viral. The top comment, "As soon as I hear that phrase, guilty." It got shared so many times it ended up on TikTok FYPs that had nothing to do with celebrity gossip. That's how deep the distrust runs.
So we would, of course, expect her to be a witness at her trial. Of course, she's going to testify.
And the internet didn't stop there. The Amber Heard comparisons came in hot. Forums, Twitter threads, YouTube comments, all started echoing the same sentiment. Blake isn't acting like someone seeking justice. She's acting like someone seeking sympathy. There's a massive difference. The term Amber Heard 2.0 has now been used so often that you could run a Google alert for it and get hourly pings. Users are calling her manipulative, calculated, and, perhaps most damning, completely unprepared for what's coming next.
Lively's legal team claims she also won't be the only one stepping forward.
Because now comes the part everyone's waiting for. Blake Lively on the stand. And if there's one person who sees through the smoke, it's Brian Friedman, Baldoni's lawyer. This isn't just a courtroom appearance. This is a full-blown credibility test, and people are already betting she won't survive it. According to sources close to the case, Blake allegedly struggled during her deposition. And we're not talking about nerves. We're talking about breaking down, stumbling, dodging, over-explaining. That's without a jury watching. That's without cameras. That's without viral clips circulating with subtitles and sarcastic commentary. Now imagine what happens when that deposition energy hits a federal courtroom.
Which is that this retaliation campaign was launched against Ms. Lively for her having raised concerns about sexual harassment. Whether Reynolds, 48, will testify remains uncertain. Okay, you have a bunch of random people you claim are going to testify and support Ms. Lively.
There's also the issue of her possibly pleading the Fifth, which, yes, is completely allowed in civil cases. But courtroom optics matter. And if she gets on the stand and starts stonewalling basic questions, game over. No one's gonna sit there and say, wow, she's being legally strategic. They're gonna say she's hiding something. It's how this plays in public that's going to matter. Because unlike most civil cases, this one already has a built-in audience. And they're not reading transcripts. They're watching clips, they're reading headlines, and they're replaying every awkward moment on loop. And they're not rooting for her. They're waiting to see her fumble. Hard. People have literally commented things like, I want to see her forget the date, or let's see how long she lasts before she says as a mother and starts crying. It's cruel, sure, but it's also the public temperature right now. There's no goodwill left. Whatever support she once had has been buried under months of spin, deflection, and overproduced PR. And let's be honest, this is no longer about who's telling the truth. It's about who's more prepared to face it. And based on how this circus has unfolded so far, it doesn't look like it's going to be Blake.